name is Sarah Jo Jones. I'm a horticulture teacher at Carroll County High School in southwestern part of Virginia. Today we're going to be talking to you about how to make ornamental and holiday greenery out of materials that you might find in your yard or even off of your Christmas tree if you have a real tree in your house. So we're going to talk about it from an industry standpoint, but also what you could do at home if you don't have access to the same tools. We're going to be using a wreath making machine with a clamp type frame. So this is what the clamp looks like. You can actually order these from Amazon, and the machine's pretty expensive, so you probably wouldn't want the machine, but you can use a hammer to put these clamps down instead. Or you can buy a wreath form from your local craft supply. Hobby Lobby or Walmart or even the Dollar Tree might carry something like this, and get some floral wire to go along with it. And I'll show you a couple of different ways to secure the different greenery that we're going to use, but we're going to mostly be focusing on the clamp machine instead. So what usually happens with these types of wreaths that you buy out at the local Christmas tree farm, they will take what they call a cull tree. So every year when they plant the trees, they grow about a foot a year. So when you do your initial planting of your nursery stock, which is what the baby trees are called, you're going to be making a long-term investment. Most people like their trees at least 6 feet tall, maybe even taller. So they're going to be 6 or 7 years before they're eligible for harvest. Well, after a certain time, those trees might end up being too big if somebody didn't buy them in the previous year. And so they get too big and create cones and cone out. When they cone out, they're no longer desirable. Also, it might be that it just doesn't grow in a pretty shape like a Christmas tree, so they decide that they're going to cull it. And what that means is they're going to get rid of it. So they'll buy the machine and the clamps, and they'll take their cull trees and turn them into wreaths. And that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to put on some gloves because the sap and the needles can irritate your skin. It just makes it easier to work with the material. We've already put together some different cuttings, but if you were going to do a cutting off of a branch, I'll show you an example here, you would get the whole branch, and then you're going to actually cut the tips off, and you want to use tips that are roughly the same length and uniformity. You can use some that aren't quite as desirable, such as this one right here, and it's totally fine. You can use it to help bulk up what you're working with. I'm using a pair of Fisker's anvil cutters to cut these with. You can buy them at your hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, or Walmart, or any local place as well, Southern States. And they're basically just scissors for plant materials. It does require a little bit of muscle to make them work, but they work quite well. So when we cut these tips off, they're going to be what we use to create the bundles. So we're going to come back over here. We've already created some cuttings for this wreath. We're going to be using 3 different types of evergreens. We have some boxwood, we have some cedar type cuttings from some small bushes, and then we have a fir Christmas tree style. You want to start with your biggest, longest materials in the back, and then you're going to create a bundle that's going to fit inside these clamps. So I'm going to come over here and just get a few of the fir tips first, probably 3. Create a nice little bundle. And then I'm going to add in some boxwood, just a couple of pieces. And this came from a friend's shrub. Just collected these and cut them into smaller pieces. And then just to add a little bit of extra fringe and texture, we'll put 1 piece of our cedar type bush in here. Now we're going to come over to our machine. Over here on the machine there are actually 2 clamp slots up here on top, and the way that this works is we're going to put the bundle in our clamp, and then there's a foot pedal over here that I'm going to press. It's going to push the clamps down around the bundle, and it's going to hold it in place. When we do the next bundle, we're going to lay it so that it covers the tips of the previous bundle. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in first. It's really important to keep your fingers away from the clamp. I've got it laid the way I want, and then I'm just going to press the foot pedal. And there's our first bundle. If we keep them kind of short like this, it's going to make it definitely more of a round shape. If we make it bigger, then it's going to have more of a fan or spray look to it. So you can get different looks depending on the size of your bundles. So we'll go ahead and do another one so you can see how those are going to lay on there. So we did 3 pieces of the fir type first. So we're going to do 3 pieces again. Now see, this piece has got a couple of different ones on there. So I can actually separate these. We've got 2 here. And we'll save that one for another one later. So we've got 3 pieces of our fir. Then we used 2 pieces of boxwood. We'll clip that just so that it's similar length. This all smells so good too. It smells like Christmas. And then we're going to use another piece of our cedar type. So you'll notice very similar bundle size. Alright? And then we're going to lay this in here so that we're covering the tips and the clamp from the previous bundle. And then we're going to clamp it. You could use a hammer, a really nice heavy hammer, to do the exact same thing if you didn't have the machine. And if you keep this clamp from one year to the next, all you have to do is pull these open and you can do it again. Use the same wreath form from one year to the next. Alright, and so that's how we would do this on a clamp form. We'll show you the finished product of this later in the video. I wanted to show you quickly how you could do this same thing using a wreath form that you could buy at your local craft store. So we're going to do the same basic concept. We're going to have our bundles. They're going to be about the same. So let me get a few of those pieces together here. And you can use any evergreen that you might find in your yard. You might find some holly, or you might find some cedar, magnolia. There's lots of different evergreens that you could use for this. You can also use an old artificial tree that maybe you're not using anymore, that you've decided that you want to get rid of. Now you can use the artificial pieces instead. Just get you a pair of wire cutters and cut the pieces off. Make sure you've got somebody helping you with any tools. Alright, so we've got our bundle here again. And then I just have pieces of wire. Normally when you buy wire in your local craft store, it's going to come in, it's going to come on a paddle. It's called paddle wire. So it's just one long continuous string, kind of like a rope or twine. And you would just use it on the paddle, and you would just cut off what you need. I have floral stems instead, where we have a floral shop here at Carroll County High School. So I'm using those, but you can get whatever you need. So we're going to lay this right in the middle of our frame, just like we did with our clamps. And you'll notice there are these wire rings going throughout this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push my wire between the first and the second, okay? And then I'm going to feed it through. Then I'm going to come through the back side between the third and the fourth rings, just like if I were sewing. I'm going to pull that up. I'm also going to use this crossbar as a place to put some leverage on my wire. I'm going to pull this up and grab it like I would a twist tie for a trash bag or for a loaf of bread. And I'm just going to twist this down nice and tight. I can also lay it down on the table and cinch it like a piece of twine. There we go. Nice and tight. And then I'll twist. You just want to secure those to the frame. Okay? Now I can pull this down behind and wrap it, twist it one more time, just to make sure that it's extra secure. Notice I'm moving this around and it's staying right on the frame. Then I'll take my pair of wire cutters over here and trim this. To save a little bit of wire, I probably should have just used half of a piece. I wouldn't have had to cut off quite as much, but I wanted to make sure that I had that nice and secure. When I go to do the next bundle, it's going to be just like before. I'm going to lay it right over top of where I had the other one, covering up these stems and my wire, and just continue this process until I get all the way to the end. When I go to do the last one on either one of these, I am going to have to lift up that end so that I can get to the next clamp. But then I'll just insert those stems in that last one and clamp it just like before.
And here is Miss Jones' final product. She decided to finish this wreath off with a beautiful plaid bow. With exception of the frame and the bow, she made this wreath entirely from evergreen material from her and her neighbors' yards. Look around. What can you create with what you already have? We hope you enjoyed this video. For more information about Christmas tree farms and agriculture in the wintertime, visit our website, agintheclass.org.